The Philadelphia Eagles need to find more balance on offense than what they were doing in 2024, but don't think they're changing their identity. I'll tell you why coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Welcome in, Eagles fans, to this Tuesday edition of the show. I'm your host, Louie DiBiase. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if that bet wins, you're going to get $300 back in bonus bets to use across the app. So just bet on the Philadelphia Eagles money line on Thursday night in the season opener against the Dallas Cowboys, and you'll get $300 back in bonus bets. Hopefully the offense has as big of a day as I'm expecting through the air and on the ground. And you know, it's interesting. I think you've heard a lot of different things this week in press conferences from Jalen Hurts, from Kevin Patullo, from Nick Sirianni. You've heard comments throughout the offseason from players and coaches alike, even the front office as well, the general manager and Howie Roseman, that make you think about what is the Eagles' offensive identity going to be this year? Last year, we know they, for the first time in the Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni era, I think we all knew they've always been a better running offense than a passing offense. Even in 2022 and 2023, when they had a lot of success through the air, I think we all knew, like, when they got going on the ground, that was their superpower. Like, that was their Hulk ability to just turn into the big green monster and take over football games, is when they just said, we're going to run it down your throats with our elite offensive line, a really good running back, and a top 3 mobile quarterback in the NFL. You know, they did it in the second half of the 2021 season and made the playoffs. They were a great running team in 2022. You know, even DeAndre Swift in 2023 had 1,000 yards. So they've always kind of tinkered with the idea of, I think they've always known that that's who they truly are to their core, but they've always tried to find a balance as well. Then last year, they fully embraced, with Saquon Barkley at the helm, they said, like, this was the final infinity stone to become a historically great rushing offense. Why are we not just going all in to an extreme with this strength on the offensive side of the football? And it won them a Super Bowl in 2024. But again, you look at the history of the NFL, running backs that saw a usage rate that Saquon saw in 2024, normally the following year, don't produce the same amount of yardage. They normally get hurt. They seem a little bit more worn down. Because of that fact, because Nick Sirianni has been preaching all offseason that you have to evolve, you have to be different to win year after year. You can't think that running it back and doing everything the same that you did the previous year is going to work exactly the same, or you're going to get the 2018 Philadelphia Eagles on your hands. So when you think about that, you start to think maybe they're going to become more of a passing offense in 2025. Maybe there is more of a balance. Kevin Patullo even said this week that, yes, they do have to be mindful of the touches of each star. Like, they have to be mindful how often A.J. Brown is getting the football, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley. Like, they have to keep these guys all involved in the game, happy in the game. Like, that is a part of this. And they've always said that for years, that that's something that obviously you have to consider when you have so many talented players on one side of the football. But at the same time, why I'm just always going back and forth with what this offense is going to be this year compared to last year and who they were in 22 and 23 is because then you hear like Jalen Hurts talk about how they've been really trying to practice what Nick Sirianni is preaching with contribution over credit, that it's not about the individual, that whatever it takes to win, they're going to do that. And that tells me Jalen and Nick are saying, hey, we might do that again. Like, don't think because we won a Super Bowl that we're not going to win dirty, that whatever it takes, like, we're not going for style points. Suddenly the priority is not different from a team perspective where we're starting to think about stats. We're starting to think about winning in ways that we want to win instead of winning in the ways that it requires each and every game. And that tells me, like, they're not going to change. Like, buckle up. This is going to be a run-first offense in 2025. This still might be the team that runs more than anybody in football. It's going to be them and the Baltimore Ravens. The Los Angeles Chargers are probably going to run a lot. And I think when you look at all of these comments, the reality, the true answer of what's coming up on Thursday night and throughout the year is somewhere in the middle. I think what Jalen said, if you take it literally, that's exactly who the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be. Week after week, it's going to be different. Whatever is required of getting that win, whether they're leaning on the passing game, whether they're leaning on the running game, whether they're leaning on both because the defense can't produce. Maybe the offense is having an off day and the defense can carry or will have to carry. Because they have so many stars on both sides of the ball, they can afford to, they can find different ways to win because they have strengths all across the roster. I think that's who they're going to be, is multiple. I think they are going to evolve where I think they are smart enough to know that they can't just give it to Saquon Barkley every game and expect him to save them again. Like, teams are going to play you different in 2025. And while that's not going to completely take you out of being the number one rushing team in football because you're just so good at it that it doesn't matter if they know it's coming, you're still going to succeed. But like, teams are going to give you even more stacked boxes than they did in the second half of 2024. You're going to have opportunities to take advantage in the passing game. There are going to be lighter secondaries, lighter second and third levels to take advantage with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Jahan Dotson, heck, even Saquon Barkley in the passing game. So, yes, I don't think that you're going to be able to get away with what you did last year, or like, you can't have the passing game look like it did against, even in wins, the Carolina Panthers and the Baltimore Ravens, or early on against, you look at the matchups against the Falcons, Saints, and Tampa Bay, in Cleveland and New York early on in the season before that big Cincinnati performance. I don't think you can afford to do that all the time because Saquon he's just not going to hold up. And I know he's a freak, and I don't think he's going to suffer from the same fate of DeMarco Murray and Adrian Peterson and, Sean Alexander and a lot of guys that had a historic usage rate. But he is 28 years old. If you do think that you can give him that exact same amount of volume, I can all year long, maybe in the second half of the year in the playoffs you can, but if you think you're doing that for 17 games again, I think you're crazy. So I'm very curious. I've been thinking about it all day. It's why I wanted to open the show with it. I'm very curious what this offense is going to do in 2025, who they're going to be, because there is a balancing act that they have to find. And I know that winning is all that matters, but you also have to think about the long term. You have to think about winning when it matters most. Like, I think what it takes to win in September and October, you might have to just get by and do it different ways so that in December and January, you can really utilize Saquon Barkley and your actual strength, like what it truly is going to take to get it done in the second half of the year. You'll still have that at your disposal. So they're going to have to balance that. They're going to have to balance, thinking about health of Saquon. They're going to have to balance keeping egos happy. A.J. Brown, I'm telling you, I know he is not the diva, the Terrell Owens that people paint him out to be, but I also think that A.J. Brown is going to want his touches, and I am curious if they do exactly what they did last year, if he's going to be happy with that every single year, if he's going to fully embrace that like Jalen Hurts will. I don't know, because after winning championships, guys' priorities change. Like, they're going to look at individual goals, and they're going to strive for that. I'm not saying they're going to only care about that now after getting a ring, but again, there's a middle ground. I think the theme of this, the true answer to this segment is there's going to be a middle ground, a balancing act that the Philadelphia Eagles have to find this year. I think truly what they're going to have to do is just play to what the defense is giving you, because they can do it all. And a defense is going to have to pick their poison, and when they do, the Eagles have the strength to make you pay. In the Super Bowl, Steve Spagnuolo said, Saquon Barkley's not going to beat us in the Super Bowl. If Jalen Hurts does it with his arm, fine, so be it. So they gave him the passing game. They took away Saquon Barkley. What did the Eagles do? They beat you through the air because of Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith. And so that's what they're going to have to do, is truly take what Jalen said literally. Do whatever it takes to win. But there are so many different variables in this that go into it that I think especially the first half of the year, it's going to be super, super fascinating to see what happens. Now, I think, again, they are going to run more than most teams in football. I think they're still going to they're going to be top 5 in rushing attempts. I think Saquon Barkley is still going to be the face of this offense. But I don't think it's going to be like 2024, where there's some games where Jalen Hurts has, he throws 15 times and has 102 passing yards, a pick, and then a rushing touchdown. Like, I don't think you'll see those box scores as often. And it's also because they're playing really good teams this year. They're going to have to be able to throw the football as well. So we'll see what happens Thursday against that Cowboys defense. I think through the air and on the ground, they're going to be able to have a lot of success. All right, guys, coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast, I think all eyes on the defensive side of the football should go to 5 role players, and I'll tell you why coming up right here on Locked On Eagles. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast, we are brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy Football. The NFL season is just 2 days away, and you can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is here. Everyone's researching, drafting, and building their championship squads. If you haven't joined a league yet, now is the time. It's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, I'm playing on Yahoo Fantasy. I've been doing a league with my friends since 2009 on Yahoo. That's right, 16 years. Whether you're a first-timer or a veteran like me, creating your millionth league, Yahoo Fantasy is loaded with fun ways to compete and brand new features that make the games even better. With the season kicking off on September 4th, now's the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football. Want more ways to play? Well, they've got Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until one team is left standing. Want to play instantly with friends? Try the new Draft with Friends mode. Prefer the classics head-to-head? Get your crews together. Go in a private league. If you don't have a crew, no problem. You can join a public league as well. It's the easiest way to play. The NFL season kicks off September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Guys, we have an important request. Locked On, we want to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to LockedOnPodcast.com/survey to get started. Everybody who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's LockedOnPodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you so much for helping us out. I think the Philadelphia Eagles on defense against Dallas, they're going to be carried by Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith on the defensive line. They're going to be carried by Zach Bond at linebacker, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean in the secondary. I think Reed Blankenship, if the game's close, like you can predict, he's probably going to have a really clutch interception in the second half of the game. But for me, all eyes are on 5 guys specifically. And I think 3 are the most important, but I'm really watching 5 role players. It's Moro Ijoma, Jalix Hunt, Jahan Campbell, Adoree Jackson, and then whoever's starting at safety, whether it's Sidney Brown or Drew Makuba. And I think Jahan Campbell, Adoree Jackson, and Sidney Brown are, and again, or it's Makuba. I think, though, I'm projecting Sidney Brown to be the starter against Dallas on Thursday night. Those 3 are super crucial when you think about the matchup against Dallas. I think those 5, I'm watching not for the specific matchup of Dallas, but I'm watching those 5 players because of the entirety of the 2025 season, the state of this year. From a long-term perspective, those 5 players are so important. Those are the guys that, again, they're not the stars of the defense. They could be, but they're not the pillars, I should say. That's the right term. They're not the pillars of this defense. Like I said, the pillars are Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith on the defensive line. It's Zach Bond at linebacker. It's Q and Coop in the secondary. Like, those are your pillars that if you take them off the defense, this thing is all collapsing on itself. But those 5, why they're so important, why I think they could determine whether this 2025 version of the Philadelphia Eagles is like the 2017 team, the 2022 team, the 2024 team, or they're more like the 2018 Eagles or the 2019, 2023 Birds, is because when you look at the differences of those first 3 teams I mentioned and the second 3, when a lot of role players on offense and defense left after a Super Bowl run and they went to other teams, the Eagles, they still had a bunch of stars, faces of the franchise, again, pillars that were able to carry them to the playoffs in 2018, 2019, 2023. But when they didn't have the volume, when they didn't have the high-quality role players, when Howie Roseman was not able to replace those guys that maybe got overpaid elsewhere, and Philly knew we just can't pay those guys. We can't pay everybody. It's the reality of being a title contender. When you have a deep roster, teams are going to want guys to be their pillars that are not your pillars. And they just, again, they were not great at replacing those guys in 2018, 2019, 2023. If this version of the Eagles want to be, again, a Super Bowl contender, not just a really, really good football team that makes the postseason. Like if they want to be a historically great team, a dominant team that maybe is on the verge of repeating or dare I say becoming a dynasty. I hate that using that word, but maybe you need Moro Ijoma, Jalix Hunt, Jahan Campbell, Adoree Jackson this year, and then Sidney Brown or Drew Makuba to maybe not be stars, but be guys that at least you're winning with. Hopefully you're winning because of. I think you can win games because of Jahan Campbell and Jalix Hunt and Moro Ijoma and like Drew Makuba's playmaking. Jahan Campbell's versatility, rushing the passer, being able to affect the game against the run, in the pass, and coverage, again, as a rusher, his versatility. Jalix Hunt, if he takes the next step, having an elite edge rusher, it's one of the most important things you can have on a title team. Moro Ijoma, having an elite interior pass rusher, we saw what kind of benefit that is with Jalen Carter and Milton Williams, and even Ijoma to a degree last year. Like those guys, if they can take that next step and become stars, you're back to who you were last year, which is a historically deep football team. But even if they're not just that, but they're really good players, like they're good, not great, but you're not winning in spite of them. You're not losing because of those players. That's how you remain a true Super Bowl contender. That's how you get to that Chiefs, Patriots, old school 49ers. I hate to use a Dallas Cowboys analogy, but the 90s Cowboys. That's how you get to that level of success. That's how the early 2000s Eagles were able to sustain success and make 4 NFC championships in a row, to make 5 NFC championships in the Donovan McNabb, Andy Reid era. Because when they inevitably eventually lost Bobby Taylor and Troy Vincent, what did they do? They replaced them with Lito Shepherd and Sheldon Brown. Like they were able to get turnover like that when, Deuce Staley and Correll Buckhalter weren't the guys anymore at running back. They were able to plug and play Brian Westbrook, right? So for me, when you look at how teams sustain success and the reality of roster building in the NFL, you're not going to be able to keep everybody. You're going to have to go cheaper at times. You're going to have to go younger. And these guys are all very inexperienced. So hopefully they don't become liabilities on defense. I think that they all could be even better than who they're replacing, but the floor is certainly lower. So I'm not watching them specifically for this game. I think for this game, I am watching Campbell, like especially in coverage. How is he going to hold up against a Jake Ferguson? Or if they're playing zone coverage and, dare I say, CeeDee Lamb's in the slot and Campbell's in his vicinity. How's Adoree Jackson going to handle George Pickens one-on-one? Or if he is going up against CeeDee Lamb. Sidney Brown, like is he going to make sure that Dak Prescott can't push the football vertically? Is he going to make sure he doesn't make mistakes in the open field? Those guys I am watching for this specific matchup, but why I'm watching all 5 of those players more than anybody on Thursday night is because I think watching how they're going to be early on in the season is going to tell me for the long term how this defense is going to look throughout the entirety, the majority of this season. So I'm very intrigued by those guys. If I had to go with like a confidence meter, confidence rankings of those 5 of who I think is going to produce, I think number 1, I'm most confident in Moro Ijoma. I think number 2 is Jalix Hunt. Number 3 is Jahan Campbell. I think number 4 is whoever the safety is. For me, I want Makuba to be starting. I think he's just the guy that can make more plays on the football. I want his playmaking ability on defense over Sidney Brown. And then at 5, I am the only starter on both sides of the ball that I'm truly worried about is Adoree Jackson. So I think he would be last in my confidence rankings. We'll see what happens. I cannot wait to watch all those role players on Thursday night again against the Dallas Cowboys. Speaking of role players, Dallas Goedert and Jahan Dotson on the offensive side of the football, I think they could be big, underrated contributors Thursday night. I'll tell you why coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by America's #1 sportsbook. It's FanDuel. The NFL season is 2 days away. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting. Whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineups, it's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. I'm taking Eagles money line on Thursday night over Dallas. I'm going with the over on the points for, which we'll see what happens if it moves, but right now we're at 47.5. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored on Thursday night. You can bet it all on FanDuel. Get ready to play. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And guys, today's show, we are also brought to you by Upside. Eagles fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Start earning cash at the pump today. Use our limited promo code touchdown and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now by using our limited time promo code touchdown for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code touchdown. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. All right, Eagles fans, we are wrapping up this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Make sure, get ready for your fantasy football season with the Locked On Fantasy Football podcast, Monday through Friday. Make sure that is your second listen of the week. I'm trying to get a ring this year, my fourth in my most popular league, so I'm listening to Vinny Liar and all of our people at Locked On Fantasy Football each and every day. On Thursday, they're not in my fantasy lineup, but I do think they're going to be important, underratedly so, and I think they could actually really be big-time players against Dallas's defense. I'm looking at Dallas Goedert and Jahan Dotson as potential sleeper heroes in this game. Now, obviously, this offense is going to run through Jalen Hurts. It's going to run through Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley. Those four guys are going to touch the football more than anybody, and I think this entire team as a whole, you go as far as those four players. I mean, I know there's so many talented players on the lines and on defense, but those four, you're going to go as far as they're taking you, in my opinion. They're the faces of this football team. But Dallas Goedert and Jahan Dotson, I think when you look at the matchup they have against Dallas, when you look at, Dotson potentially could be going up against Kaiir Elam all game. The Dallas Cowboys linebackers, from what I've seen, it doesn't seem like they have any elite coverage linebackers on the second level. They don't have any Zach Bonds that was, top 5 in coverage grades over at Pro Football Focus. They don't have that, they've got the likes of Kenneth Murray out there. And Kaiir Elam was a first round bust from the Buffalo Bills that I think fits better in that aggressive Dallas defense. But I think Goedert and Dotson are going to get favorable matchups because I think Dallas is going to want to get Trayvon Diggs, who, by the way, was a full participant in practice on Monday. I'm not sure if he was today, but he was a full go yesterday. So it looks like Diggs is probably going to play in this game. I think they're going to want to have Diggs and Deron Bland on Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. So for me, again, that's not going to stop. It's never stopped Smith and Brown before. You can get yardage on those corners. They play very aggressive and they take risks and they give up a lot of yardage. But I think Goedert and Dotson, there is going to be opportunities for them to get the football. Dallas Goedert against those linebackers, I think, is one of the biggest mismatches in this football game. I want to see them get Goedert going in multiple ways, over the middle of the field, vertically, quick throws, maybe even the tight end screen game. I like to see get those offensive linemen moving upfield. I want to see that. And then Dotson, when you look at Devontae Smith, he's probably going to be inside a lot, which is where Deron Bland plays. I think Trayvon Diggs is going to be on A.J. Brown. So you could see, again, a lot of Jahan Dotson versus Kaiir Elam reps. And when you look at Elam's strengths and weaknesses, I think Dotson is not the kind of receiver that he normally plays well against. So, target-wise, the target share predominantly is going to favor A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And, of course, carries, a lot of it's going to go to Saquon, and I think you can even throw Saquon the football. And that's another thing. Maybe get Saquon going pre-snap motion. Can they get him lined up one-on-one with some of these Cowboys linebackers and safeties. Like, I think underratedly so, Saquon in the passing game, Jahan, Dotson, and Dallas Goedert, I think they could have really big-time performances. That's the thing is, this game, this season, role players are really important. Obviously, when you're a team that's this talented up top, you're carried by your stars, but role players are so crucial, not just on defense, but on the offensive side of the football too. All teams are going to gear up to try to, and it's easier said than done, but everybody's going to try to stop number 11, number 6, and number 26. I think Dallas Goedert, Jahan Dotson, they're so much better than the role players you used to have that are able to take advantage of the mismatches they get. They're kind of the offense's version of that second and third defensive tackle on defense. Like Jalen Carter garners so much attention that Milton Williams was able to just destroy one-on-ones all year long. Moro Ujoma was able to have a top 15 overall pass rushing grade from PFF, and I think he was top 5 in pass rush win rate. He was top 5 in one of the most important stats in football. So I think that's similar on offense, where this year, even more so than last year, because I think there will be more of a balance, they will throw more. I think Dallas Goedert and Jahan Dotson are going to have much bigger roles, especially if they're healthy, if Goedert especially can stay healthy. I think Saquon's also going to catch the ball more this year. I'm really watching that on offense on Thursdays. Are there like really big-time mismatches we can exploit with some of the bench mob, the role players on offense? Dallas Goedert, Jahan Dotson, Saquon in a different way as a pass catcher. That's going to be interesting to watch. But we have so many more storylines and matchups to get into. 2 more shows before Eagles-Cowboys kicks off on Thursday Night Football. We've got a show for you tomorrow with myself, and then crossover Thursday with Marcus Mosher of Locked On Cowboys, and then our Friday recap show as well. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Eagles on all podcast platforms to get those 5 shows a week. 2 live squad shows that go for an hour long on YouTube, YouTube Shorts, all that and more on the Locked On Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks as always for signing off. I'm going to sign off. Thanks as always for downloading, I should say, watching and listening, and let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.